for our webinar launching our new report, Israel State of PLANETech 2023. We're really excited for this webinar. We're working for this webinar for the last couple months. So today in the webinar, we will hear the findings of our new report, followed by 6 different climate tech startups from our ecosystem. I'm Gal Sharon. I'm the head of ecosystem development and operations at PLANETech, and I will be your host for today's webinar. We're really excited for having many people from the global climate tech ecosystem joining us today, from different countries, and of course from COP28 in Dubai. We will go over the agenda and we will start. Great. So we'll first hear opening remarks from Dror Bin, the CEO of the Israel Innovation Authority, and Shani Zonesco, the founder and chair at PLANETech. Then we'll jump straight to the content of the webinar to hear the new findings from the report and from the 6 different climate tech startups that are addressing different climate challenges from our ecosystem. And in the end of the session, we will have time for Q&A. So please keep your questions for the end of the webinar, and we will open the Q&A session for you, and you can write your questions in the chat. So please stay with us. It will be really interesting. I want to say that the webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be uploaded for the PLANETech website and the Israel Innovation Authority website. And of course, you will get access to download the full version of the report in both websites. I think we can start. So I'm happy to invite the first speaker for today, Dror Bin, the CEO of the Israel Innovation Authority.
Thank you very much, Gal. I would like to share a few slides. So hello, everyone. Happy to be here and to open this gathering, presenting the findings of the 2023 Climate Tech Ecosystem Report. Obviously, we had other plans to be these days in COP28 with a delegation of the best climate tech startups in Israel. We're also planning to have a very big event here with PLANETech in Tel Aviv. Unfortunately, the war broke and we are doing this only virtually, but it doesn't mean that we stopped working. Israeli climate tech delivers no matter what, even in times of war, and I will elaborate on that in a moment. Just a second, problem with the slide. Okay, I hope that you can see. Maybe before I dive into the climate tech ecosystem in Israel, just a brief context about the Israeli high tech in general. Many of you, or all of you, know that Israel is known for its tech ecosystem, one of the leading tech hubs in the world. But just to give you or to share with you a few figures that illustrate that. So first of all, Israel invests more than 6% of its GDP in R&D. This is the highest highest percentage in the world. And this is the case already for more than 2 decades. Israel is ranked number one in terms of R&D investments. 12% of the Israeli workforce works in the high tech. This is again the highest number in the world. About 9,000 high tech companies work out of Israel. And this is the 3rd place after the Silicon Valley and the New York metropolitan area. We compare ourselves to either countries in our size, less than 10 million population, or large metropolitan areas, so number 3 in the world. 18% of GDP. As a benchmark in the US, it's about half. 8 to 9% of GDP. In the EU, it's about 5 to 6%. So again, very different. And about 50% of Israeli export is out of the tech sector. This is, I think those numbers show why the high tech is considered the engine of the Israeli economy and why it's so important. And this is also why the Israeli government is so determined to take all necessary measures to make sure that the high tech continues to thrive even during war times. For those of you from abroad who are not familiar with the Innovation Authority, Israeli Innovation Authority, our mission is to strengthen the competitiveness of the Israeli Innovation Hub. We fulfill this mission in three ways. One, direct investments in startups, in groundbreaking, high-risk tech-based ventures, in which the private sector is under-investing because of the high-risk profile. We are looking for disruptive innovation, investing in those startups. The second way is preparing the local tech hub for the emerging technologies, investing in applied research, in labs, in talent. So when the time comes and the technology matures, it will be available for new ventures to be founded here in Israel. And the third way is removing growth barriers, regardless whether it's regulation, taxation, human capital, just name it. Once we identify a growth barrier, we reach out to the relevant government ministry, agency, or academia, or industry, and we work out together the removal of this growth barrier. All in all, we invest about $500 million every year in either startups or infrastructure to make sure that we strengthen and sustain the competitiveness of the Israeli Innovation Hub. Now, when it comes to climate tech, already 2 years ago, we have decided to set a very high priority for the development of a climate tech ecosystem in Israel. After analyzing all the assets that we have here, just to mention a few, it's world-class research institutes. You can see them on the left-hand side of the slide. We have here a vital investment, very sophisticated investment community. And maybe above all, we have great entrepreneurs, those that once you tell them that this problem is impossible to solve, you see the spark in their eyes and they immediately go after it. And when you talk about problems and challenges, what is bigger than climate change and the need to find technological solutions for the various challenges that climate change is posing to humanity. And this is why we see so many amazing entrepreneurs taking upon themselves incredible challenges in order to bring this innovation to the world. And already today, we have locally about 800, just below 800 tech companies. And as you can see, they are quite diverse, addressing different sectors of climate, either with mitigation or adaptation in the various aspects of human lives. You will hear a lot about it later on in this event from the report. As I said before, even in wartime, people continue to work. It's not like we have ceased operations and wait for the war to end. I can tell you that since October 7th, I spoke and my team spoke with probably hundreds of entrepreneurs, CEOs, investors. All of them, keep one eye on the war, but the second one is completely on their business. They understand that they need to deliver, and global customers, global investors, global partners, even though they stand with Israel and empathize with Israel, they still expect the companies to deliver. And again, from all this conversation, I can tell you that they deliver. They find very creative ways how to overcome the challenges the war is posing, and they deliver. On top of that, one of the things that we discovered is that because of the uncertainty the war created, many early stage companies got surprised or were in the midst of a fundraising round. And therefore, we launched just a few weeks ago a bridge financing fund sized at $100 million for early stage startups with a short runway of less than 6 months, so we can fund them and let them pass through the times of war and then go back to the fund raising with no pressure. So from all aspects, Israeli tech and Israeli climate tech continues to deliver. And as I said before, we, as the government agency responsible for the high-tech sector, we are determined to do whatever is needed to make sure that no asset of the Israeli tech is lost during the war, and more so to get out of this war even stronger than before. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dror. It was really interesting to see how the government supporting the climate tech ecosystem in Israel, and of course, like we doing that together. So thanks again for great collaboration in general, and also for this new report. We will jump to our next speaker, Shani Zonesco, climate tech investor and co-founder and chair at PLANETech. Shani, stage is yours.
Thank you, and thank you, Dror, and thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Shani Zonesco, and it's great to see many familiar names and also new ones from all around the world. Just a quick thank you to PLANETech team and also the Israel Innovation Authority for this partnership, but we've done so many partnerships from the first day of PLANETech, so thank you for that as well. You know, we're used to talking about the word resiliency in context to climate and climate tech. It's a part of our day-to-day word that we're using. And over the past 60 days, resiliency, the word, has received so many new meanings and layers and depth and breadths. And when we established PLANETech, it was 2020, which is a nonprofit joint venture of Consensus Business Group, which is a financial investor, UK-based group led by Vincent Chengiz, and the Israel Innovation Institute, a nonprofit building and driving innovation ecosystems. We did so for many reasons, but you know, mainly from a deep belief in the Israeli high-tech industry that they can tackle this type of crisis, one of the largest crises that humanity has ever faced, and leads the transition of the global economy with technologies, and also realizing the huge financial opportunities, which we'll dive in just a bit. So we did so from a deep belief, and I think that now we no longer need to assume or believe. It's not a bet. It's in this uncertain times, it's probably the most certain thing that we know is that we can trust with the Israeli tech industry and also the Israeli climate tech industry to continue to be resilient and compassionate about everything that we do. And resiliency and compassion are two traits that are also so essential for driving innovation and finding solutions to tackle climate change. So I believe nothing is a coincidence, and this is a reality. And like Droz mentioned so many times, and all of you are probably experiencing, we are delivering no matter what, and also exceeding that. So we covered why Israel. Okay, now I just want to dive into why climate tech, and also why PLANETech and how we came about that. So quickly going to share my screen. So I've mentioned the people and the talent, but we also know, I'm just zooming out a little bit, that climate tech is not only one of the biggest crises of our lifetime, but also a great opportunity. Bank of America priced it at $100 trillion, and we have very, very massive tectonic shifts that have been happening in the world. It's not from now, you know, we only talk about it now, but like no, since the Paris Agreement and the race to zero, more and more Fortune 500, 100 municipalities, countries are committing to decarbonize themselves and be net zero. It's not just a slogan. And we see the follow-up of governments and regulations that are taking into place, and corporates, they have to report in a certain way. And as a result, we see loads of funding going to this space, like the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act in the US, $300 billion we're talking about, you know, not small money, as well as the EU Green Deal, which many Israeli companies have also harnessed as we know it. And also all sorts of frameworks for fines and taxes and carbon offsetting and all this good stuff. The bottom line that I want to stress is everyone is realizing that climate risk is financial risk, and what can be more perfect than implementing climate technologies in their organizations in order to mitigate that risk, right? So we are talking big money. We are talking big risks that we need to solve. We also have a generational shift, which I will not touch a lot because we don't have time, and also a change in urgency, obviously, that impacts everything that we do. We do see climate tech growing as an asset class from an investor perspective. Again, this is not just like slogans. We see the money. We see it. Currently, there are $121 billion of assets under management across all type of funds. And currently, we know as of September, $33 billion of investable dry powder, which is quite good. We also just see the changes in the stage and you know, the various climate VCs. This is a better slide to show it. We have examples for climate tech companies and also big funds that actually, some of them, if maybe not all of them, actually have invested in Israeli climate tech companies. This I will leave to our amazing experts to touch upon, but the first thing that we did in PLANETech is to define what it means when we talk about climate tech, and we were happy that entities like the Israel Innovation Authority and the EU have also adopted that, and this is how we're going to share the findings of the report. So this is as a homage for last COP, COP27. This is actually was another Israel Innovation Authority PLANETech collab. We took the first ever Israel climate tech delegation to present at COP. And this is just a nice transition for me to tell you about PLANETech. So we are the innovation community for climate tech technology. We want to shift the Israeli tech industry into climate, but also create a global network, which we have. I'll share with you some of our partners. Sorry, double slide. And we do so by centralizing the ecosystem. So especially in climate, it is so, I don't want to say important, it is essential. We cannot tackle climate change without centralizing the ecosystem and collaborating between stakeholders. It is not possible. And this is why everything that we do also in PLANETech involves academia, other NGOs, corporates, government entities, other investors, and obviously we're actually really doing all of that for the startups. So some of what we're doing here, a lot of you have attended it and we're happy about it. This I will also leave to our experts later. We are doing many collaborations with various partners from which are different stakeholders, like I've mentioned before. And in our line of work in sharing knowledge, we're doing things like building climate ecosystem in various countries. And you can check out the different reports that we did on our website. I'll share all the links later. We're also helping startups quantify what is their climate impact. Maybe it is larger than you know, and maybe it's a great way to receive more capital and acquire more customers and business opportunity. Something that we did in the past year or more is the PLANETech Investors Alliance, over 40 VCs and investors gathering together, learning and sharing insights about deal flow and startups and how we can better invest in climate tech, which is nothing like any other sector. And it is the best sector to invest in. I think so. And also, of course, the PLANETech Academy, which is already online, and you can check a lot of courses that we did there, like a carbon market course and nature-based solutions competition that we did recently. Also, we ramped up our startup platform recently, and you can find yourself there if you're a startup. If not, contact the great team. As I've mentioned, we're doing challenge competition. And as Dror mentioned, we were supposed to meet here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in October 18th, face-to-face. We had to obviously postpone it, but no worries. We will, God's willing, meet soon face to face and celebrate also prevailing all the challenges that we have now. Some upcoming things that we have are office hours and other webinars, and we're here for you, for founders, for investors, for anyone who wants to get involved. Even if you don't have a company yet, you know, it's probably one of the best times to build a climate tech company, and we're here to help you. You have so many resources with us, with the Israeli Innovation Authority, and this is, obviously, we have to end every conversation with a QR code, which you can see all the links. Get involved. And last thing that I forgot to mention is we also launched a job board. So a lot of people are looking for jobs. A lot of people are looking for meaning right now. We have amazing startup companies that you can start working with. So it's all on here. And thank you very much. And I'm handing it back over to you, Gala.
Thank you very much, Shani. It was really amazing to see how PLANETech and the Israel Innovation Authority doing like so much in the last couple of years to develop the climate tech ecosystem. And I think the report and the findings of the report are a great example for that. So we'll jump towards to the content of the event. So I'm really happy to invite our amazing two speakers, Dr. Tamar Moiz, Scientific Director and Head of Climate Programs at PLANETech, and Dr. Hagit Schweimer, Senior Director in Climate and Health in Israel Innovation Authority. And I will take the time to say thank you very much for both of you for leading this amazing project. So Tamar, the stage is yours.
So, hi everybody. Thank you, Dror. Thank you, Shani. Thank you, Gal. And obviously, thank you to all our participants who are with us. So first of all, I'd just like to say that I'm really happy to be here at this event. I'm privileged to be part of the Israeli climate tech ecosystem and privileged to have participated in the writing of the reports from 2021, 2022, and this current report. So we know that the timing of this report, it's being brought out together with at the same time as COP28. So I just wanted to connect a little bit between sort of the COP events and climate innovation. And I stumbled across this description of that was given to what is COP, which I think is really spot on. And the description is that it's climate negotiations wrapped inside a conference, inside a trade fair, because there really is so much going on at COP28. Obviously, it originated as Conference of the Parties to the UNFCCC, the Convention on Climate Change. It's a meeting of world leaders, parties getting together to negotiate the frameworks for international collaboration and cooperation to limit emissions and global warming. But it's evolved into a mega event. Diverse stakeholders come from governments to industry, sectoral experts, investors, as you see here, civil society. I think 70,000 people are now in Dubai. And it's all together, as we said, as Shani mentioned before, together varied and diverse stakeholders have to contribute and collaborate together. And this they do on the climate agenda and importantly on climate action. And in the last few years at COP, the private sector has really been racing ahead, championing, financing, and innovation. So private sector are demonstrating climate technologies, entrepreneurship, innovative approaches. This is sort of the trade fair and the exchange that is going on at COP. And specifically this year, the UAE have actually focused in on technology and innovation as one of the 4 cross-cutting themes which they focus on across each and every thematic day. And that's with the realization, obviously, that to support delivery on action, to develop, to deploy climate technologies, it's central to the transition that is necessary. So this is in general about innovation, which we know is necessary, climate tech innovation. And Israel is now renowned already as an emerging climate tech ecosystem. And since 2021, PLANETech and the Israel Innovation Authority have collaborated on collating information and providing the most up-to-date depiction of the Israeli climate tech ecosystem and how it's evolving over time. So we have a 2021 report, a 2022 update, and now the 2023 report, which is launched. It can be found on both our websites. It can be found on the website of the Israel Innovation Authority, and obviously also on PLANETech's website, together with previous reports. So we urge you all not just to listen into this webinar, but to go download and to read in full the report. So what do we have in the report? What are we portraying in the ecosystem report? We're looking at the mapping of startups and growth companies who innovate and target climate change. The type of information we have within and that we'll be presenting here are the number of startups, what climate challenges they address and which ones are not addressed, the investment amounts, who's funding, towards which challenges, looking at trends, barriers, government support, and for the first time in this year in the 2023 report, we also map the geographic markets of the startups. And the report is really used very, very broadly by groups of Israeli and global stakeholders to gain insights on the opportunities that abound in Israel. So it's used by startups, it's used by sector-specific communities, VCs, CVCs, corporates themselves and governments. We actually receive numerous country delegations every year wanting to deep dive into the ecosystem, and they all use the report as a gateway, all these stakeholders, for deeper exploration. The basis of the report, the way we map the startups is according to the PLANETech challenge map, which Shani sort of showed briefly before. I'm also only going to relate to it very briefly. It can be seen in more depth on the PLANETech website. The challenge map is a taxonomy that depicts the climate challenges of our economy, of our everyday life, for which technologies can provide solutions. And we classify 22 climate challenges across 5 challenge areas. This is the built environment, land use, materials and manufacturing, nature, and digital. So we have a challenge obviously around clean energy systems and sustainable mobility, smart agriculture, climate smart agriculture, soil health. The list, as we say, it's 22 across these domains, novel low carbon materials. All domains in which we're challenged to find climate positive technologies. The map also includes challenges to conserve and revive nature and biodiversity. And this, we're understanding that the ecological crisis is tightly linked also to the climate crisis. And again, they encompass mitigation, greenhouse gas removal, sequestration, and adaptation, both of infrastructure, communities, and natural ecosystems. So we're not looking at technologies, we're looking at challenges, and startups will have diverse solutions based on different technologies that can answer one of these climate challenges. So this is the basis for our mapping. And let's go ahead and let's have a look at the report findings. So we're going to begin with the sort of the numbers and some of the climate challenges addressed. So we've had a little bit of a spoiler, and we know now that in our 2023 report, we mapped out 784 Israeli climate tech startups. So just for formalizing, what is a startup? We define it as less than 20 years old who have received investments, or younger if you're less than 7 years old, then those who have yet to raise funding within this group of younger startups. And what makes you a climate tech startup? If you can respond, if you have a solution, a tech that responds to one of those 22 challenges for mitigation or adaptation that we have showed on the PLANETech challenge map, this sets you apart as a climate tech startup. And the innovation can be core to the business, or it can be one branch of the business. And something to point out is that many startups obviously can provide a solution to one or more challenges. It may also be a novel material that can be used for clean energy. It may be a novel material which is to do with circularity. Our mapping, and as we show the mapping, relates to the main challenge of a startup. So we see that this year we mapped out, and it's inclusive up to H1 of the report year of 2023, 784 climate tech startups. And if we're looking at our previous reports that came out in 2021, 2022, we actually see that we have a net growth of 150 climate tech companies. So we have a really growing ecosystem. And obviously each year we update the database with new companies. We take out those companies that have closed. And we also have companies that we may have overlooked or were not yet sort of on the radar because they were in stealth mode. So we have a growing ecosystem with a net growth over the period of time that we've been mapping out the ecosystem. What do they address? What solutions are provided by these startups? So here we see the 22 challenges, and we see the number of startups that are addressing each of these challenges. And we see that the 4 leading challenges are climate smart agriculture and clean energy systems, both of these having around 7 startups, followed by sustainable mobility, and then alternative proteins. So these are the 4 leading startups leading challenges as far as the number of startups. And we can carry on reading down, and I just urge you to go to the reports and look and actually sort of follow. We have sort of eco-efficient water, circularity, novel materials, food loss and waste. Something to point out is those challenge areas which actually have few startups. And we see that towards the bottom of this, challenges within the nature challenge area, together with mineral and metal mining, only have a low number of startups. So here we're looking at the picture of all the Israeli startups. If we have a similar graph or a similar diagram, and we're only going to look at more at newer startups, those startups that have been established since 2018. So we're talking about around 5.5 years. By the way, this makes up nearly 50% of all startups. So we see that we have a young ecosystem. 50% of startups are less than 5.5 years old. And we see here a change in the ranking. So the top 2 challenge areas are the same: energy systems and climate smart agriculture. We see that alternative proteins has taken over from sustainable mobility. But again, these are still the main 4 challenge areas. What we see here is also we have a change in the ranking when we're looking at young startups. Carbon capture and utilization, together with carbon management platforms, have actually leaped up a big step by 5 rankings, showing that these are predominantly young startups. In fact, I think for these 2 sectors, they're nearly all young startups. And on the other hand, we can see that some of our other challenge areas, eco-efficient water infrastructure and low carbon buildings, that's everything to do with the operational emissions, cooling and heating, insulation, etc. in a building, we actually have less new startups since 2018, showing that these challenge areas and the startups within are more mature and established. So we have here 8 leading challenge areas if we're looking collectively at the last 5+ years. I'm not going to dwell on this next graph. Again, you can go to the report and you can look at it more. What I just wanted to point out is that these same 8 challenge areas, also on an annual basis, consistently, they have the largest number and the highest number of new startups. And they make up between, we can look at the different percentages here, between 65 and 80% of all newly established startups. So we see we have a large volume of the startups in the leading challenge areas. And we see that Israel has a specialization and expertise in the challenge areas that are depicted within. We'll take a glimpse now into the 2 leading challenge areas as far as the number of startups in general and new startups: clean energy systems and climate smart agriculture. And then we'll actually have presentations from a startup from each of these challenge areas. So first of all, I'll just give a little glimpse into the diversity of solutions that are provided by Israeli startups within clean energy. We actually have 3 sub-challenges within. So we're talking about innovations which relate to energy in context of clean generation, efficient transmission, smart distribution, and storage at different scales. And when we map out the startups, we see that the bulk of the startups are associated with generation. So from solar, wind, waste, even waves we have, and production of hydrogen through various pathways, including electrolysis, use of photocatalyzers, waste, and others, as well as ammonia as an energy carrier. Let me just put in the background. This is the PLANETech startup platform, where you can see the various startups within, some of the startups within the clean energy system challenge area. So we spoke about the bulk being in generation. Storage is offered by startups with various solutions, improved and novel batteries, compressed air, thermal storage, both heat and also ice, and flywheels, and hydrogen that we mentioned in context of generation. We also have startups providing solutions for storage and transporting hydrogen more efficiently and cost effectively. When we actually map out the newer startups, we see that many of the newer energy startups are affiliated with solar, and many focus on optimization of installation locations and maintenance service, as well as SaaS and AI systems for optimization in general of energy networks and the grid. So that's a sort of a little really quick review of what type of startups we have within clean energy systems. We can do a similar review in climate smart agriculture, again, the leading challenge. Here we have 5 sub-challenges covering everything that's required to ensure food security whilst we're still mitigating agricultural land footprint and emissions, and of course, adapting agricultural systems to the impact of climate change. So startups reducing land footprint are those that are basically improving crop yields. Again, it can be from an array of tech. It could be precision agriculture through images and sensors. Enhanced photosynthesis. We have startups doing so by disease detection through robotics and automation. The need for less land by increasing nutritional content of the crop, as well as various novel farming systems. Reduced inputs will relate to startups who reduce fertilizers, obviously with their immense footprint. Again, it could be through precision agriculture, through biologicals for protection, or also as biostimulants. There are a large number of startups targeting more prudent use of water, and we see them also monitoring these both through the crops and trees themselves, as well as soil moisture. Less emissions, whether it's from machinery, livestock, whether we have a couple of startups targeting enteric methane emissions from livestock, and resilience, ensuring the robustness of crops to changing environmental conditions, such as heat, precipitation patterns, drought, salinity, and changing seasons. So this is sort of a very quick review on some of the startups we have within these 2 main challenges. And my sharing seems to have crashed. All right, I'm going to just take a minute to try and I suggest in the meantime, while I'm trying to get my presentation back, I'm not sure what you can see on your screen, but my computer seems to have crashed somehow with the presentation. I would like to invite perhaps to take the opportunity. We spoke about a lot of the startups dealing with solar. We know that at COP28 at the moment, there are commitments talking about tripling renewables, doubling energy efficiency. Again, that's relating mostly to solar and wind. I'd actually like to invite and to discuss and present an Israeli startup with a completely different type of energy source, and that would be NT-Tau, looking at compact fusion energy. And I'd like to invite our first speaker, Oded Gur-Lavi, the CEO and co-founder of NT-Tau, to share with us their developments in compact fusion energy.
Okay, thank you, Tamar. Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Happy to present NT-Tau. The compact fusion system, I'm the co-founder and CEO of NT-Tau, and would be happy to explain what we're trying to do. Basically, when we look at the problem is that we're doomed. In a sense, if we continue to use the current energy sources, then we will be hit with a very strong climate crisis. We're already in it. The energy security will be less and less. And with an increasing energy demand, which is an exponential growth of demand of energy, we will see a stronger and stronger crisis. While when we look at the political will or maybe ability to actually make a dent on everything and to try and solve the problem, we do not see a strong political will or capability. So basically, we're doomed. But the solution exists, and it's usually in technology. That's why we're here in PLANETech, and we're talking technology and climate tech. And in the best technology that nature gave us is fusion energy. And in that case, is taking small atoms, hydrogen, deuterium, tritium in this case, the heavy ions of hydrogen, giving them enough energy, they will fuse, give helium, and then a lot of energy, enormous amounts of energy come out of that. And that's an exponential solution, and the number speaks for themselves. So if we look at fusion power, the fusion energy capability, if you look at chemical energy, coal, oil, if you take a kilo of those, you'll get 30 to 50 megajoules of energy from those, from coal or oil. But if you go to fusion energy, which is nuclear energy, you get 350 million megajoules. That's 7 orders of magnitude more energy, and that's an exponential solution for an exponential problem that we're faced with in order to really solve the enormous amounts of energy needed. And what we see in the last decade, I would just say, is some converging trends, and specifically more in the last 5 years, is converging trends enabling this, enabling technologies first. Some of them are high power computers that enable very strong, very good simulations. Mind you, no simulation can really give you a full answer, but simulation enable to go faster. And then power electronics, strong power electronics that exist today that haven't existed in past decades, that can really enable control over the energy that is needed in order to heat plasma, to create the energy. And high field, high temperature superconductors that enable stronger magnets, more flexible design possibilities for those magnets, which are needed to hold high temperature plasma in place in order to create the fusion reactions to happen. And when we look at those converging trends, we see, the private capital. Tamar was talking to a lot of, and Dr. Bin was talking about the capital going into climate tech. Only to fusion, we see in the last basically 5 to 10 years, over $6 billion have gone through the private sector, pushing forward, enabling, after decades of research, many, many decades, we're standing on shoulders of 80 years of experimental knowledge, and we're pushing forward with faster pace because of private sector going in. And all of these, and with regulatory framework and the timelines that are needed, I think we can achieve a grand vision, a vision of a future with clean, affordable, reliable energy, secure and universally accessible, really to empower all humans everywhere, and to try to restore back some of the harmony necessary between humanity and nature to really keep us moving forward. And with what we have found in our technology of optimal plasma regime, we have found a way to create, I would say, a very strong power, power box of container size that can actually push and light up a small city with very quick deployment, avoiding some of the grid inefficiencies, anti-Tau's future market capabilities with a 10 to 20 megawatt power box like this that can enable about 10,000 homes. And you can see the rest of the other markets that are capable of data center, industrial facilities. Each and every one of those can get, one container can give so much energy to faraway islands, off-grid areas, or disaster areas. We have very strong collaborations. We believe in collaboration that can enable us to really solve this. Among our investors, you can see they're from the US, Europe, Japan area, and Israel. So we're very happy to have all those strong forces working with us. And in conclusion, I would say that I think it's going to happen this decade. I hope it's going to be anti-Tau. And I think part of it is because of our small system, faster, larger markets, faster in the development, cheaper in the development and deployment. I think this can really change the path of climate. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oded, for presenting us on the tech, which is really disruptive of NT-Tau. And I'm not sure whether I introduced you correctly at the time, so because of my Zoom crashing. So for those that, in case I didn't, so Oded is the CEO and co-founder of NT-Tau, so thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce onwards Omer Davidi, CEO and co-founder of BeHero, who will discuss to us about precise pollination and also protection of those pollinators as an example of a climate-smart agriculture startup. So the floor is yours, Omer. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tamar, and thanks everyone for setting this up. I think it's great to have everyone together, if not physically, at least virtually. So I'm Omer, as you mentioned. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of BeHero. At BeHero, we focus on saving the bees. And I think before we dive a little bit more into what we do, just to provide maybe more context, that food production is going to be one of the major challenges for us, as well as energy, as Oded showed before. And in the next 50 years, we'll need to produce more food than what we have produced over the last 10,000 years combined. So that's a huge challenge, and this is not a challenge for one company or one entity to try and deal with. We all need to work together in order to address this issue and make sure that we support the growing population. Another interesting fact when it comes to food production is that the majority of food production depends on those tiny little insects for pollination. So we have three mechanisms in nature for crops for plants to pollinate, which is wind, gravity, which is considered to be self-pollinated, and then insect pollination, which is the major segment. And as some of you probably know, those bees that we depend on them so much are in trouble and they're dying. And today we see more than 40% of bee colonies collapse every single year. And we have beekeepers out there working extremely hard in order to revive those hives and maintain some sort of a steady population of bees to support food production. But food production needs to be increased, and we need to ensure that we can build a sustainable model that support those efforts. What we've done in BeHero, we developed low-cost sensors that goes into an existing beehive. I think some of the challenges as we are dealing with more of old-fashioned industries is that we need to change things in a way that people can digest and happy to adopt. And we've managed to deploy those sensors in hundreds of thousands of hives across the globe. And we focus on two areas. We collect things like temperature, humidity, sound, and so on from inside those hives. We collect environmental information like crop type, varieties, densities, and so on. And then we basically early detect and predict things that cause those colonies to get weak and collapse, things like queen failure, starvation situation, mites problem, and so on. And we work constantly with the beekeepers to ensure that they can support healthy bees and efficient bees. And when those bees are loaded onto trucks to move between crops during the year and provide pollination services, we can do it in a more precise way. And a few years ago, BeHero founded and introduced the concept of precision pollination as a service. And in less than 4 years, we became the largest pollination provider in the US as well as in Australia, with tens of millions of dollars in revenues. And ideal, we're going to add another digit soon. So we are working extremely hard. Probably one of the fastest growing agtech companies out there. Great team doing a lot of great stuff and introducing this new concept of pollination, which we have a lot more work to do. One of the interesting areas that we discovered as we created this data set of bees on pollination that didn't exist, definitely not in this scale in the past, is it opens huge opportunities for future revenue streams. And BeHero already introduced concepts in the insurance play with commercial beekeepers, in-field sensing to support also biodiversity aspects, and support food production in a more sustainable way, all the way up to working with private equity and commodity traders to address bees and pollination data in their models. So in a way, we just learned today some of the opportunities that we will work on in the next few years. And it's very exciting, to be one of those leading Israeli companies pushing this thing forward. We founded the company in Israel by the end of 2017. And today we operate in 3 main areas. We have the R&D center in Israel, we have the business unit sitting in the US, and we just expanded to the Australian market. So time zone is a big thing for us. We brought some of the top strategic investors to support Bureau efforts, like General Mills, Rabobank, and so on, and putting a lot of emphasis on ESG. It's about, you know, building a profitable and sustainable company, but also ensuring that we are building a more sustainable food system that can exist for years to come, and not just address the food needs of our current times. And I think that's part of the reason that we've managed to bring so much talent, especially from Israel, but across the globe, to support Bureau efforts moving forward. Thank you so much, and thank you for the recognition and some of the great activity that we have out there, and we look forward to collaborate with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omer. Again, amazing to see the quick and fast growth and how you've penetrated the markets. I'll just go back to some findings of the report, and we're looking here at a graph that those of you who have read our previous reports may be familiar with the format. We're looking at the growth map of the ClimateTech challenges. We're basically seeing 3 types of information. On the y-axis, we're seeing that the challenges are mapped according to their fraction or the percentage of young companies. Those are companies that have been established in the last 3.5 years out of the full total number of startups within that challenge. The circles that we're seeing are the total number of startups in that challenge, and what we're seeing on the x-axis is basically the investments. So I'll try and run through this really quickly and just point out some of the main findings. We see we have clusters and groupings of challenges, and again, I think we're probably familiar with this now, that we have our established fields of climate smart agriculture, energy, and mobility. We have large number of startups. Sorry for that. We have a large number of startups. They've received high investments over time. And here we're seeing like moderate growth. Of course, it's moderate growth on the basis of the fact that they have a large number of startups, because we've seen that they are indeed growing. Rapid growth. We see here our alternative proteins, which has a small number of startups, but has received quite a lot of investment, even comparable to the climate smart agriculture, and relatively a large fraction of young and newer startups. And this fits in with what we've seen earlier. We will point out that last year we also had within rapid growth, we had green construction, everything to do with embodied emissions within the construction industry. And at least as far as what we've identified, we did not identify any new companies in the last 3.5 years, which means that green construction has gone down to what we call the cluster of stagnated growth. Companies that relatively have got small number of startups, but have received more than the median of investments, but there's definitely room to grow here. What sticks out very clearly is what we call the new arrivals. We have here 2 challenges, the carbon management and carbon capture and utilization. So we have a smaller number of startups with still relatively low investments, but a really huge fraction, around 80% of new companies. And we see that the software-based carbon management, actually we have more companies than the hardware-based carbon capture and utilization. And the main cluster here is early growth startups, which are, again, some of them are within what we call the 8 leading challenges, whether it's the circularity and the food loss and waste. And those that are emerging, still substantial new startups, between 30 to 50% are still young. The investments are growing, and we expect, as we go into the future, to see more growth of these challenges, which are sort of the less traditional climate tech than the climate smart agriculture and the energy systems. So what we'd like to do is actually also have a glimpse into 2 challenges from 2 different clusters. From new arrivals, we'll take a look into carbon capture and utilization, and for stagnated growth, we'll look into green construction. carbon capture and utilization. Within Israel, we have 14 startups, and they really cover land and ocean removal, a biomass burial. We have ocean chemistry loops, land-based, nature-based solutions, obviously direct air capture, point source capture, as well as utilization to syngas and carbonate minerals. And we have startups that are targeting not only carbon removal, but are also looking at other greenhouse gases, such as methane and nitrous oxide. Today, there are various topics, which I won't go into, at carbon removal that are being discussed at COP28, one of them also being ocean innovation, and we'll be hearing shortly from Carbon Blue about their carbon removal process in oceans and how they will scale carbon removal. And the second challenge area that we wanted to point out and bring a startup to present to you actually relates to today's thematic program at COP28, which is on urbanization and built environment. We know that embodied emissions from construction account for more than 16% of global emissions, and we need to go beyond the low carbon cement and concrete, and this is what Israeli startups are doing. We have startups that are dedicated to alternative building materials, to eliminating the footprint of cement, those that target building design, cement curing, so this reduces the amount of materials, as well as various management platforms that reduce material waste and support the choices of what type of materials with what type of footprint we'll be using, as well as those that are looking at the targeting construction waste and creating circular building components. So here we will hear from Structure Pal, and they will talk to us about their designing with AI in order to reduce concrete amounts. So I'm very happy again to invite our third speaker, Dan Deveri, co-founder and CEO of Carbon Blue, to share with us the developments in ocean CO2 removal.
Thank you, Tamar. I'm very happy to be here. And as Tamar said, we are a startup company in the field of carbon dioxide removal, meaning capturing carbon dioxide from the environment after it was emitted. So just to frame what is the problem and why it is so important, here you see a graph that I'm sure that many of you have seen many times about which for me encompasses the essence of what is PLANETech, which is dealing with the challenge of reducing the levels of greenhouse gases emissions in the atmosphere to a level that mitigate climate change. And to do that, we have to do that for all of the greenhouse gases. And here we see the major one, which is carbon dioxide, and the projected growth of the emissions over time. As you can see here, first and foremost, we have to reduce emissions as much as possible, which means adopting renewable energy, energy-efficient technologies, electrification, and many, many types of innovations that we've seen today and all across the ecosystem. But this is not enough, because removing carbon dioxide, completely getting it to zero, is impossible. And the residual emissions will need to be accounted for by capturing the emissions after it is released to the atmosphere. And this is the essence of carbon dioxide removal. And we need to get, according to the IPCC, to about 10 billion tons a year, which is like the annual production of steel, cement, and oil. Meaning, few years, we need to get carbon dioxide removal to be one of the largest industries. And we developed in Carbon Blue a technology that we believe can do that. And we do that not by constructing standalone facilities dedicated to carbon capture, to carbon removal, because that takes long time and is very slow and expensive. What we aim to do is to use existing infrastructure to take different industries and make those industries on top of what the function of the industry is to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And we do that by targeting water, because water infrastructure is very prevalent in different industries. And if we would have removed the carbon dioxide from the water just by applying a technology in those industries that we see and in many, many others, we can easily get to gigaton scale removal. And to do that, we have developed a technology, a proprietary chemical process to remove the carbon dioxide. I will not get into the technical details, but basically what it does, it is a circular process that splits aqueous solutions with carbon dioxide into a pure stream of carbon dioxide and decarbonated water, which is by itself something that helps the industry, which incentivizes the industry to collaborate with us and install our equipment at their site. And what you see here is our pilot site integrated with a desalination facility in Israel. At the moment, it is a very small scale, but it allows us to test and quantify the performance of our technology. And here you see us in comparison to the current incumbent, which is Climeworks, the direct air capture company that filter out the carbon dioxide directly from ambient air. And here you see another advantage, physical advantage of removing the carbon dioxide from water is that water holds much more carbon dioxide than in air, which allows us to get better costs and much smaller capex and land area compared to alternative technologies. Of course, after we remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the water becomes decarbonated and reabsorbs over time due to thermodynamics back the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. What you see here is our pilot site. Now it is still a prototype stage, but it is in development, and next year, hopefully, we will start to run a 400 tons facility, which will be the largest ocean-based carbon removal facility in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. I'm happy now to invite Yonatan Lasovsky, founder and CEO at StructurePal. The floor is yours, Yonatan, and we're excited to hear about your technology.
Thank you. Okay, so hello everybody. As Tamar mentioned, my name is Yonatan Lasovsky. I'm the CEO and founder of StructurePal. I'll start by stating a fact. The construction industry is using too much material, or to be more precise, more than it should. And that is due to the fact that we over-design all of our buildings in terms of material. StructurePal is here to try to eliminate that concept of over-design, beginning with concrete, which is obviously the worst material worldwide and in our industry as well. Next, please. Okay. Easy. Okay, so a few words about the industry and concrete. Our industry is one of the worst, without even a doubt, reaching almost 40% of global CO2 emissions in terms of real estate and construction as well. 10% of those 40% are just from the concrete industry. And if we go more macro about concrete, 1 cubic meter of reinforced concrete, something that everyone can imagine, equals 500 kilos of CO2 emissions in its life cycle, which is a horrible number. Next, please. And if that's not enough, you jumped too much. One back, please. And if that's not enough, a few more facts. 80% of the weight of the building is concrete, and half of the embodied emissions lies in that material. And if we look about the economics of concrete, we see that 1/3 of the cost of the project will go into it. And the number, and the worst number that we're talking about, and you understood how expensive and how in terms of cost and emission concrete is, but the worst thing is that we over-design by roughly 30% in all of our buildings, and there's even worse numbers to come. So horrible problem. What can we do about it? Next slide, please. First thing is to identify the problem, where it starts. It starts with our engineers. They are in a horrible position, and they are the ones to design our buildings. Why horrible position? First of all, we have more buildings that we have to build by the day, while having less and less engineers in the profession. And if that's not enough, no design time available. 4 weeks is just nothing for a building. And again, with this situation, our engineers will have to compromise by using all kind of copy-paste tactics and thumb rules, I'll say strategies, leading to that excess of 30% and above in concrete, which gets to almost 10% losses for the developer client. Next, please. So what can we do about it? We've developed a software solution that incorporates AI into the process, and by that, helping the engineers reduce an equilibrium of 50% in terms of volume, but at the same time of cost of the material, reaching to almost 30% in reduction in terms of CO2 emissions for the structure. And that happens without any learning curve. That means it integrates into their software and reduces roughly 50% of their work. Next slide, please. Now, how does it work? So our industry, to be honest, sees the dollar before it sees the carbon. And therefore, we have to produce an incredible return on investment for our clients. That means when we ask for $2 for a square meter and in return provide us 15%, we show an ROI that moves from 5 to 10%, $10 for each dollar invested. And that's something that brings the industry in, an industry that is very old and very static about innovation. Next, please. So, simple workflow. We tell our engineers, instead of drafting, don't draft. Specify the challenge. Tell the AI what is your parameters and constraints, such as materials, regulations, code, costs, architectural limitations, and so on, and let the AI run in the background, iterate by itself, different designs, eventually converging into that optimal design at the end. And not only that, providing the engineer with fully drafted 3D models, analytical models, quantity reports, and calculation reports with a summary of CO2 emissions at the end. Next, please. Now, all this beauty and this system can provide a huge financial impact. That means we can earn up to $9 billion if all the world would use our software. But that's one number. Please see the number on the right bottom, which is 144 billion kilos of CO2 emissions that can be reduced from our industry on a yearly basis. And that's where we are aiming. But even if you're looking at the SAM, that's still a good number to get to 50 billion kilos. We will be okay with that as well. Next, please. We are targeting at the moment large-scale developers, which are clients, from the simple reason that they're producing more concrete and using more concrete, and at the same time are more available for innovation. Next, please. We've been doing great. We're practically spread from Hong Kong through Israel, through Europe, and through Canada with clients, design partners, and investors. We've been winning a few prizes from both ends. That means from the construction, from the ComTech vertical, let's say, and from the ClimateTech vertical as well, going through the best programs available for that matter. Next, please. And the beauty itself is the team, I'll say. A group of frustrated engineers who decided to make that leap into tech, into software development, into AI, and help build this miracle that you see in front of you. A miracle, a software, an AI that helps reduce concrete in such a level that investors such as Shikunu Binu and Shafir, the largest construction companies in Israel, groups, I'll say, decided to invest. And we have investors from all sides, from Hong Kong, from Israel, even from Australia and Canada. And we are very proud of what we're doing. So thank you very much for having me today. I'm Jonathan Lazowski, and we are Structure Pal.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for telling us about your tech, which is truly impactful within the industry. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'll just show a few slides now, talk about how ClimateTech is racing ahead and opening on the investments. Guy, I'm also having a problem with the presentation. Can you show, please?
Well, it was good. You can continue.
Yeah, okay, then I'm doing it again.
It's okay.
Tamar, would you like me to start with my slides meanwhile?
Sorry, let me just have one more attempt, and then if it doesn't work, then absolutely. Okay, sorry for that, everybody. So running through very quickly, just showing how the PLANETech in Israel is racing ahead, and to start talking a little bit about the investments. Just as a sort of statement, we should note that the relative fraction of Israeli climate tech startups is growing year by year. 1 out of every 6 new startups that are established, all of those that were established in 2022, are climate tech. You can read more about that in the report. A little bit just mentioning our investments. If we look at findings from last year's report, we see a massive growth from 2018 to 2021. This is investments in climate tech, in startups, an increase of 340%. Last year, we didn't yet know what to say, what would be happening in 2022. We only had data from the first half. Going into 2022, we see that investments were more or less stable. 2022, we had $2.3 billion of investments. What's remarkable is this was a time when in Israel, at the time, investments in general tech was massively decreased. So basically, we're seeing that investment-wise, the Israeli climate tech was actually 400% more resilient than general high tech as far as the investments that came in. What are we seeing if we compare to global investments in climate tech? Here we have a graph which basically shows the investment trends compared to global investments. Here we have the global, here we have Israel. We're not looking at absolute amounts, we're looking at normalized to what was invested in 2018. So we see a growth also globally and also in Israel, but we see the growth in Israel is much larger. And that makes sense considering it's a much smaller ecosystem and has where to expand to. So we have a massive growth. And what we're seeing from 2021 and onwards is actually how Israel mirrors global trends as Israel climate tech has actually become more mainstream. So like global, investments in 2022 were more or less stable and similar to 2021, and a big decrease, which was seen globally due to various economic issues around the world, that for the first half at least of 2023, climate tech investments were decreased somewhat. The last slide I'm just going to show here is just also you can see the differentiation of how these investments were split between the climate challenges. And basically what we see that those same 4 leading challenge areas, both for all the new startups, are those that also received the highest annual funding. That's clean energy systems, mobility, climate smart agriculture, and alternative proteins. At this stage, thank you for bearing with me. And I'm very happy to invite Dr. Hagit Shrimer, who is Senior Director of Climate and Health at the Startup Division at Israel Innovation Authority, to continue sharing the findings of the report.
Thank you, Tamar. It was a pleasure to collaborate. And yes. So after Tamar described the investments in Israel, I'll move to the investors. And as you can see here, since 2018, Israel Climate Tech has attracted almost 540 investor groups, as well as large number of additional private investors. Many of these investor groups have invested multiple times. So these are groups and not investors and not investments. So averaging 2.7 investments per investor. As you can see here, 52% of the investors are Israeli, and 48%, almost half of them, are non-Israeli, predominantly from the USA. Over 50% of the funding derives from venture capital funds. You can see here, when we divide the Israeli and the non-Israeli, you can see that these are quite evenly distributed between them. However, corporate VCs investments originate nearly entirely from the non-Israel entities. Also, most of the private investors not shown in these charts also originate from outside of Israel. I move into the government funding of climate tech. We have several goals in this government funding. The support comes from several ministries and entities. The goal is de-risking the investments, encouraging the private sector, targeting focal areas, and also the collaboration of several government ministries and entities can leverage the budget and create synergy of shared and different goals. So the Israel Innovation Authority has a unique position here. Dror described it in the beginning as the one responsible for promoting innovative technologies or platforms addressing the dynamic and changing needs of the local and international innovation ecosystems. The authority, as you've heard before, has made climate tech one of the focus areas supporting and de-risking climate tech technological development and ecosystem growth. In 2022, you can see here the authority supported 273 climate tech ventures with a total budget of $71.4 million, which comprises 16% of its annual budget. This support was provided through all of the funding tools of the authority. Also, you've heard in the beginning, I'll be very quick here. You can see here the direct investments in companies. Also, 3 R&D consortia are supported, were established in the fields of bioplastic, the black soldier fly, circularity, and culture and meat. The pilots program, together with the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environmental Protection, and the Ministry of Agriculture, also the Government Companies Authority, invested together $9 million in climate tech startups with ventures in the later phase R&D pilot testing and implementation. The advanced manufacturing, the authority provided support for climate tech companies in their scale-up of R&D projects with the commercial manufacturing facilities, and also the human capital. The authority utilizes its human capital support tracks to increase capacity building in climate tech fields, to enhance entrepreneurship skills of climate tech experts, and to fill the gaps in capabilities for new and modified fields of expertise. Specific focus we have on the international activities. The authority has launched a program to promote collaboration in R&D and pilots of Israel startups and multinational corporates in climate-related fields. This program promotes the exposure of the Israeli innovation to global markets and global collaboration. Also, Israel participates in the European Framework Program for R&D, Horizon Europe, which enables startups, academic researchers, and other entities to collaborate in European projects to promote climate-related solutions. In 2022, the number of participants and the success rate in climate tech or Green Deal projects were significantly higher than previous years, mostly in clean energy, agriculture, food, and mobility, again, in accordance with the relatively high number of startups, as was shown earlier today by Tamar. Also, we have the incubators and innovation labs. The authority supported ideation and early stage ventures via 7 incubators and innovation labs, 2 of which were established in the last 2 years. And you can see here an example, 5 of them. All of them focus in climate-related fields. For example, you can see here ISIL, the lab that with a field of top activity in clean tech, environment, and sustainability. net zero, focus on energy, climate tech, and mobility and construction, IFO Valley, focus in smart and climate-related industry, also in Negev and Trendline. We know climate tech startups face unique scaling challenges. They're mostly deep tech, requiring expensive physical assets and equipment, and capital intensive. So we wanted to learn more about the barriers and the difficulties from the startups. So in order to learn more about the difficulties and barriers, we've conducted a survey among the climate startups. We also wanted to learn more and to have more information on the global activity and the technology implementation around the globe. 210 startups responded to the survey. The distribution across PLANETech challenges areas was similar to the distribution among the full data set. Startups and companies from pre-seed through round C, as well as public companies. 80% already have a product. And interestingly, nearly 80% of the startups operating within the country, meaning that 20% do not even target the local market. Israel is a small market. The 3 primary self-reported difficulties out of the 13 proposed in the survey were financing, scale up, and followed by regulation, distance from target market, pilot site, and ongoing operational costs in this order. Capability of scale up, you might say, is complex and may include other barriers, and responders could mark more than one. The Israeli market is the most prolific, with nearly 80% of the startups operating within its borders, meaning that around 20% do not target the local market, as I said before. So the technologies are deployed in 132 countries. 40% of the startups are active in USA, but you can see the activity in all the continents. The leading European markets are Germany, Italy, and Spain, approximately with 23%. Canada has a similar representation. The leading markets in Latin America are Mexico and Brazil. You can see India and South Africa with 15%, in Asia and Africa, and Australia, also with 15% of the companies are active in Australia. So by that, this is all the information we present from the report. And I would like to present 2 more startups to present themselves. In the eco-efficient water infrastructure, we have Astera, and again, in agriculture, resilient food systems and climate action, we have Salicro. So before we summarize, we talk a little bit about the future, about the results. We give you the take-home message. I would like to present Jonathan Rabinovich from Astera, Global Marketing Manager. Please, Jonathan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to PLANETech and to the IIA for having us here. Great. So I want to speak for the next few minutes about what Astera is and some of our use cases in the world of sustainability and climate change. So what Astera does on the most basic level is take a very specific type of satellite-based radar, specifically called L-band synthetic aperture radar, and run analyses on it to find different phenomenon within the ground. L-band is a technology that's existed since the 1950s. but it's been mostly relegated to academic and military purposes. And Astera is really the first company that's taken this very specific type of radar and made it applicable to a wide variety of verticals that help humanity and help solve the climate crisis. Just a little bit about the company before I discuss the technology and use cases. It was founded in 2016 or went commercial in 2016. We're an Israel headquartered company. Most of our R&D is here, but we have offices in the USA, the UK, and Japan. To date, we're working in over 64 countries with over 800 projects. We're the largest commercial purchaser of
Jonathan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you please share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you see it now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. To date, we're the largest commercial purchaser of L-band SAR data in the world, 75 plus employees, and we hold 11 patents in Pulsar. The first of the sustainability use cases that I want to talk about today is with our technology to locate leaks in underground water pipelines. We talk about the water crisis and we talk about the need to save water. And oftentimes that translates, for example, in Israel, to campaigns encouraging people to, turn off the sink when you brush your teeth and to take shorter showers, etc. But what many people don't realize is that much of the water that's lost is actually lost before it even gets to your home. In many countries, we're talking about upwards of 30% of the water taken from water resources is just lost into the ground before it reaches people's homes. So with our technology, we're able to actually see underneath the ground where these leaks are happening along the water pipeline and provide that data to water utilities. To date, using that technology, we've identified about 100,000 plus leaks around the world, which amounts to savings on average of about 368 billion gallons of water. Water often doesn't just get to our home. Usually it has to be pumped there, and that pumping takes electricity. To give a sense of the numbers, in Israel, about 20% of the electricity consumed in the country, of the energy consumed, is used just to pump water. So you can imagine that if you have a problem where water is just being leaked into the ground, then you're using electricity for really no reason. So if we're able to fix those leaks and identify where they are, by that, we're able to actually reduce carbon emissions and reduce the amount of energy being used. So to date, we've saved CO2 emissions equivalent to about 235,000 tons since 2017. Another way our technology is used is to actually create soil moisture maps. What's going on beneath the surface? Where is there water? And this is data that has relevancy to a lot of engineering challenges that are happening around the world as a result of climate change or are being exacerbated by climate change. We estimate that about 75% of geotechnical failures that happen, for example, rail derailments and things like that, are a result of drainage issues. So we work with rail companies and other infrastructure companies around the world to see where water is building up underground and to help solve these issues before they become a disaster. Water building up, of course, is a result of changing rain patterns, and we're seeing this phenomenon more and more across the globe. It's the same thing in roads. This is actually a photo taken along a highway in Israel where a sinkhole opened up. Using the same technology of soil moisture mapping, we're able to determine in advance where a sinkhole might happen and prevent it before the sinkhole opens up. Again, phenomena that are happening with an increasing amount as a result of climate change. What you see here in this photo is what's known as a tailings dam. A tailings dam is built to house the byproducts of the mining industry. As a result of mining different metals, there are all kinds of chemical byproducts that are created, and they're basically stored behind a dam forever for all intents and purposes. And sometimes those dams fail, as happened in 2019 in Brazil, As a result of this disaster, actually about 230 people were killed, and there was massive environmental devastation. And using our soil moisture mapping technology, we're able to assist mining companies to help prevent this kind of thing from happening. And finally, the last use case I'll mention is using this satellite technology to actually detect where there's lithium beneath the ground. This is something we're able to do by detecting lithium deposits that are surfacing. Of course, lithium has a key role to play in powering the future in terms of electric batteries and electric cars, etc. There's a huge global effort underway to increase the amount of lithium being produced, and our technology is already being used to help mining companies find lithium deposits quickly and more efficiently. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to give the floor now to Karmit Oron from Salicop, CEO of Salicop.
Thank you. Can you see my slides?
No. Jonathan, maybe you should stop sharing.
Yes, please. Yes, can we see that? Hagit?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I'm sorry for my voice. I just lost it today, and I'll do my best for the next 4 minutes so you can hear me clearly. Good evening. My name is Karmit Oron, and I'm the CEO at Salicop. At Salicop, we take the advantage or the challenge of looking at what's happening to a crop in open field. So most of our research in the last 8 years was actually focused on how do we create more yield under abiotic stress conditions, which means drought, heat, and salinity that are now most of the farmers of the world are facing. If we look at the damages that this is creating only in the US, you can see that the government is paying $9 billion a year just for this loss. And eventually, Salicop has made the vision to focus on how do we grow yield on those abiotic stresses, specifically where the heat is now becoming much more frequent in the early season, even in Europe. So visually, we have our mission is to create a sustainable future where every plant strives under stress conditions. And again, we started our research from salinity, and we tackle very high saline soil, very high saline irrigation water. And of course, how do we do that? We actually treat the seeds before they're transplanted or seeded in the fields. How do we do that? We actually reactivate the stress mechanism in the seeds in a way that we're regulating the plant's gene expression. Of course, with a very non-GMO approach, which means we're not changing the genes in any way. What do we create by that? We reactivate the stress mechanism, and we create a much more resilient plants that can strive under the stress. I wanted to take the moment to share with you a few of our great successes in this season. We have been privileged enough to receive a grant from the Innovation Authority and has started a big project in India with Bayer. We also work with Sakata and the leaders in the category of food processing in Europe, in Middle East, and in India. And I can really, and this is the numbers from the last 3 months. We're not only saying that we're increasing yield in 10, 15%, like we said in the past. Today, we can accumulate that and really talk about real money that we've created, the real income that we've created for the farmers. So in Israel, we're now actively working in more than 1,000 hectares. And we've shown in the last season, this is the last season in Israel, that we can create an additional income under salinity stress and heat stress of all the way to 1,640 euros per hectare, which is amazing. In Israel, we see that the plants are hit in the budding stage, in the fruit set stage, and we have been able to support farmers and supporting them by creating between 10 to 15% more yield and eventually additional net income in the bank. I want to show you a use case from Spain, where in Spain we see land degradation and huge issues are coming up to the open field. And we've been working closely. This is the second year with the leaders in the category. And I'm showing you a few plots where we've increased yield dramatically from 1,000 euros per hectare all the way to 3,000 euros per hectare. And the science that you see here is how hot this year, 23, was in Spain. Spain is now suffering from very strong heat waves in the season, in the cultivation season of tomatoes, and it's really decreasing their yields. Something important to understand about Spain, Spain is the fourth producer in the world of processing tomato, which means if their cultivation is harmed, they're losing billions of dollars per year. Another use case to show you is Senegal, where we've actually created an increase of even 21% with Kagome. So Kagome is one of the leading factories producing ketchup and paste in the world. They're Japanese companies, and this year we're already selling to Kagome in Senegal. We've been increasing, as I was saying, 21% increase in yield, which eventually brings the farmer 1,200 euros additional income at the end of the season. So not only talking about general, I think the pathway that we've been doing in the last 2 years is showing that it's not only R&D, but we're actually creating a commercialization pathway and creating a real net additional income to the farmers that are now suffering from climate change and real challenges in a day-to-day cultivation. Salad Club not only works on tomatoes, we work on different crops, vegetables, fodder, rice, and others, but I'll be happy to elaborate in another opportunity with a better voice. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Karmit. Your efforts are impressive. Okay, so what have we shown you today? We could see today that the ecosystem is growing. We have 784 Israeli ClimateTech. This is an increase from previous report. This is the list we have. We might didn't see all the companies on the startups. 1 out of 6 startups established in 2022 are ClimateTech. $2.3 billion funding for Israel ClimateTech in 2022. And we could demonstrate the resilience of ClimateTech in comparison with the general Israeli ecosystem in 2022, and let's hope it will continue. And the 4 leading challenges or areas in the ClimateTech in Israel are clean energy systems, sustainable mobility and transport, climate smart agriculture, and alternative proteins. What do we have to say about this? We say that Israel has yet to exhaust its potential for innovation, commercialization, and scaling up of ClimateTech solutions. I think we can see here the important role of multi-stakeholders played and collaborative approach in the continued growth of the Israeli ClimateTech ecosystem, private and public sectors. PLANETech, our collaborator, continues to build programs to enhance ClimateTech expertise in Israel and to accelerate the development and deployment of ClimateTech through connections between a network of local and global stakeholders. And the Israel Innovation Authority is taking on active role in driving the climate tech ecosystem forward, identifying specific domains with unique potential, removing the barriers to create a world-leading hub and promote global efforts for tackling the unmet needs of the climate crisis. More details you can read in the PLANETech report. And by that, I would thank you all very much. And I think we don't have questions. I saw one question about the investments. I think we answered it. Right, Tamar, Gal?
Yes, so thank you, Hagit, and thank you, Tamar, for presenting in a great way the new findings of the report. As Hagit mentioned, we a bit short on time, so and we also answered the one questions in the Q&A chat. So thank you very much, Hagit and Tamar. Thank you, the amazing startups. Thank you, Dror and Shani, and in general, all the audience that join us today to showcase and to learn more about the climate tech ecosystem. As we mentioned before, the reports, you can download the full report in the PLANETech website and in the Israel Innovation Authority website. So go there, download it, and go deep into the details. So thank you very much again, and hope to see you all of you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gal. Thank you, PLANETech.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.